Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandra Tsvetkova, and together with my colleague Georgina Humphreys, we'll talk about TREIO and the tools we have produced in today's webinar. But first, we'll also share with you some information on the most recent developments in the field of judicial cooperation digitalization, just to make you aware of what stands behind the TREIO, why do we have this project, and why do we offer the tools that we have developed. So this is the agenda for the day. We first go through these ongoing initiatives in the digitalization field. Then Georgina will briefly present TREIO eLearning course, which is focused on both legal and business aspects of the European Investigation Order exchanges, but also presents information on how to work with the specialized platform developed for this precise exchange in digital format. Then I will also briefly present a simulator that we have developed to facilitate the self-paced training that we offer in the e-learning course, but also to give you a closer feel and look of the actual system that you're going to use someday for these EIO exchanges by electronic means. And at the very end, you'll be able to get firsthand experience of not only how the system looks and feel, but also of how to further expand your knowledge and about the tools, how you can sign up for these tools. And of course, we are ready for your questions if you have any at the very end. So going back to the very beginning, examining briefly what's going on EU level and why have we reached this point of presenting you a dedicated system for EIO exchanges. In reality, in the last years, there are a number of initiatives on EU level that aim to support the digitalization process in judicial cooperation activities with regards to the electronic exchange of information in cross-border transactions, but also considering the exchange of evidence in the context of the different judicial cooperation instruments. It all started back in 2010 with a member states initiative to design a secure communication channel for data exchanges among judicial authorities. And this later became known as the eCodex system. The original project was completed in 2016, but it showed such a success at the time that there were a number of spin-off projects and initiatives deriving from the original eCodex project. Also, the European Commission evaluated the results of this very first project, saw the benefits that it could bring to the community. And after a number of years of negotiations between the member states and the Commission, in 2022, a regulation on the Codex system was adopted, bringing new rules, responsibilities, and in reality, the overall legal framework for how to operate the Codex system as the European communication system for exchange of data and documents. Along those lines, the Commission also initiated the development of a dedicated e-evidence digital exchange system that is now also known as the reference implementation software. So based on the Codex communication, they designed these tools for purposes of judicial cooperation exchanges, and that they decided to pilot this tool with digital exchange of European investigation orders, mutual legal assistance forms, and interception of telecommunication notifications. If you remember, the EIO directive applied since 2017. So it was the right time for such an experiment with this particular judicial cooperation instrument. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, the launch of the system, of the eEDES system, was delayed several times, and it was finally launched in May 2022. And since then, there are a total of 11 member states who has joined the digital exchange of EIOs through this system in a piloting mode. And you can see the number of in the member states themselves listed on the screen. There are also approximately 5-6 member states that are currently very hardly working to launch the system on national level, and they're pretty close to launching it in the next few months. Other member states are a bit slow in progressing, but they will definitely launch the system in the next 12 to 18 months. So this is kind of the technical background. What is the e-Codex system? What is the e-evidence digital exchange system? And why they matter for the purposes of the European investigation or the exchanges. However, there are also other developments that are extremely important for our context. Bringing on top of the technical developments, in December 2021, the European Commission decided to adopt on a legislative proposal package for the purposes of digitalization of judicial cooperation. And after 2 years of negotiations, this initiative resulted in several legislative acts. And the one that is important for us is Regulation 2844 of 2023. It was adopted in December 2023, just over a month and a half ago, and it's already in force, and it will apply from 1st of May 2025. It focuses on new rules for the digitalization of judicial cooperation and access to justice in cross-border civil, commercial, and criminal matters, and amends another 8 legislative acts in the judicial cooperation domain. These new rules concern video conferencing or the use of other distance communication technologies in oral hearings. It also concerns electronic communication between natural or legal persons or their representatives and the competent authorities there. It covers the recognition of documents with electronic signatures or electronic seals, but also the payment of fees through electronic means. So why this regulation is so important for us? It covers not only the main supporting tools that have importance for the judicial cooperation exchanges, but the regulation itself also obliges member states to use electronic communication and electronic exchanges via the secure communication channel provided by the e-Codex system for a total of 24 different judicial cooperation instruments. The regulation also refers to the reference implementation software as a complementary software provided by the Commission to support the member states in the adoption of these digitalization processes. Well, 24 legislative instruments to be digitized at once seems quite a lot and almost impossible. This is why the Commission developed a roadmap on the step-by-step digitalization of all these tools, dividing them into batches. So the use of e-Codex and the potential use of the evidence digital exchange system will become mandatory for the purposes of service of documents and taking of evidence in civil and commercial domains, first in May 2025. And then this mandatory digitalization will follow the roadmap step-by-step approach, as you see it on the screen. When it comes to the EIO, the European Investigation Order, that is the focus of this webinar, The mandatory use of e-codex for such exchanges and respectively the potential use of eEDES in this regard will become mandatory for the member states as of 2028. So there is quite a large period of time to reach that point, but believe me from experience, it takes quite a lot of effort for a member state to reach such a point. So 4 years may not be even enough in some cases. Now, this is a rather technical slide, but I just want to make sure that we are on the same page of how this electronic exchange happened. So let's imagine France is represented by a competent authority that is on this part of the screen. So France is utilizing the reference implementation software, the eEDES system, for the purposes of EIO exchanges. This means that the reference implementation instance of France is communicated through an eCodex communication channel with another member state that has the same installed eCodex communication point. And behind it works another instance of the reference implementation portal. This allows for a simultaneous exchange of information and documents between these competent authorities from France and, for example, Austria, let's say. Both sides see one and the same instance of the eEDES system. It looks exactly like this. It has quite user-friendly interface. It's very intuitive. And what's more important, once you get used to using it for EIO purposes, you can easily transfer to any other judicial cooperation instruments, since the overall framework and the main functionalities of the system will remain the same, while the only thing that will change from one judicial cooperation instrument to the other are actually the forms used, the type of messages communicated, and of course, the different legal requirements derived from the respective legislative acts. But in reality, the touch and feel of the system will remain the same. On top of the workflows provided by the different legislative acts, the different forms related to that, we also have one feature that is found very useful by all the trainees so far, and this is about automated translation. Automated translation, first, the system itself is provided in different languages, so you can use it in your own language or any other you feel comfortable with. But also the system provides for automated translation of the different free text listed in the various forms or messages, which could help you a lot in urgent situations or for expediting the exchanges of documents and data from an operational point of view. The automated translation does not substitute the official translation needed as per legislation, but they could be really helpful in operational context. Now, where does the TREIO project stand in all of this? So TREIO was conceived back in 2019, 2020, with the idea to support the member states in these transitions, seeing what type of initiatives have been envisaged at the time, knowing the difficulties that member states see in implementing the new, at the time, EIO directive. We decided to go for all-round cross-border training on EIO implementation that on one side could comment on the business and legal aspects of the EIO exchanges, trying to align the differences between the member states via common training framework, but also to support the member states and the different professionals with their different competencies when starting to use the eEDES system for EIO exchange purposes. In the very beginning, we designed a person-to-person training framework and developed specific training materials that covered all these aspects. So the training materials that we provide to anyone interested include information on the legal aspects. They include commentaries on the business side of the exchange, but also on how to use the eEDES system depending on the topic or the stage reached from business and legal point of view. Also, the materials are designed in such a way to allow for national adaptations. So we have included in the original guidelines references to how different peculiarities of the national workflow or the national the difference in the competencies on national level given to the various institutions and professionals could be reflected in a person-to-person training. And all these materials have been translated into 16 different languages on top of the original English version. Then we have performed a number of train-the-trainer activities, a lot of online trainings, but also a lot of awareness events like this one. And we have tried to promote the use of the eEDES system in the context of the EIO in various settings. Now the TREIO project is coming to an end, and we have, based on the experience that we have and the knowledge gained, we have designed 2 tools that could support professionals after the end of the project to learn about the EIOs and the usage of the eEDES system in the context of the EIO exchanges on their own, following a self-paced training. One of these tools is the learning course that Georgina will present in a minute, and the other one is the so-called TREIO eEDES simulator. So the eEDES simulator that we have built take the actual system provided by the Commission and build on top of it with a number of exercises that could support you in implementing different exercises and exploring the system on your own. And now we are at the final stages of the project, where we provide guidelines to professionals, trainers, and competent authorities on how to use all these materials and how to adapt them to the best way possible to their national needs. So we now proceed with a presentation by Georgina of the eLearning course.
Thank you, Alex. So I will start with some aims and activities for the TREIO online training. It comprises of some critical aspects, one being an e-learning platform, the other a packaged self-paced online training, which comprises all of the content and materials, and select language versions, which is complemented by the TREIO eEDES simulator, to allow for real-time training experiences, and all of this combined provides the TREIO online training packages and as a tool for training in member states. Thank you, Alex. For the uses of the TREIO training package, in actual fact, there are 2 packages. There is a full package and a eEDES shorter package. The full package contains materials on the EIO and eEDES, and the eEDES training includes some of the materials similar to the full package, but focusing solely on the use of the eEDES platform and less on the EIO directive and the EIO forms. And we've actually utilised the full package as a refresher training as well. So practitioners are able to choose or be instructed specific parts to review as a refresher. So it may be recapping on how to use eEDES, or it might be looking over some of the EIO and legislative matters to refresh one's memory and knowledge. There are several benefits, we believe, of the TREIO online training, including the obvious of increased awareness of the EIO directive, EIO form and eEDES, mainly from the full packaged course. The training is user-centered and active learning approaches are included, so that professionals can practice in their own time without an instructor, through a self-paced course, controlling their own study time, allowing for greater flexibility and accessibility of the content. We are mindful that practitioners don't have a lot of time to spend training, so you might not have a week to go on a training course, but you might have a few hours here and there to increase your confidence and awareness on the topics related to EIO and eEDES in a interactive and self-paced format. And we have several aims and objectives of the TREIO online training, and critically having a structured knowledge of the EIO directive and EIO procedures, identifying investigative measures and being able to overcome typical difficulties in the application of the EIO, and identifying the procedures for transmission and receipt of an EIO, and also learn how to use the eEDES platform effectively and through the use of our TREIO eEDES simulator. And at the end, all professionals should have gained a well-rounded knowledge of the EIO, EIO form, eEDES, and the legal assistance and cooperation in the judicial process. The e-learning content is an online self-paced course, as I've mentioned. There are two packages, the full package, which is up to 1 week, and the shorter package, the eEDES package, which is 2 to 3 days. Meanwhile, it does not take necessarily a full week to perform the full package. It allows for time for breaks, for you to practice some of the exercises and use of the eEDES platform, and the 2 to 3 day is similar in its structure. The master copy is in English, and it targets multiple stakeholders from prosecutors to administrators and everyone in between who may be handling EIOs or dealing with the eEDES platform. And there are select member state languages available for the course materials. The training comprises of 5 modules, and that is for both packages. However, the eEDES package is slightly shorter in the number of lessons in each module. And we have several exercises and tasks included, and there are just 3 mentioned at the base. However, there are multiple exercises which I will come to, and the use of the TREIO eEDES simulator to perform those tasks, but also to follow along with the modules and various aspects of the content. We have several forms of content within the training. We have a collection of theory and practice throughout, and we use demonstrations / tutorials to simulate some of the real world application and scenarios that we've built. And we have some exercises that professionals can practice in a safe environment, i.e. the TREIO eEDES simulator, and follow along with the demonstrations as well. The videos and demonstrations are included with subtitling. There are no audio to most of these videos, apart from some short ones, for the purposes that you may be in an office environment or in a busy environment where sound may not be possible, and therefore we have used subtitling. Throughout, there are also quizzes and activities for you to do within those quizzes, and at the end, a final examination. We will briefly showcase some of these now. We have text-based content, we have graphical content, and some animations through either video or interactive elements. There are some short videos, and then there are some quizzes, and the exam appears in a similar format to the quiz knowledge checks. We also have some demonstrations, and each of these demonstrations is a video. It's split into multiple chunks. As I said, the video has subtitles. It can be slowed down, paused, and we recommend that professionals follow along with the TREIO eEDES simulator or perform the same actions after. Here is a quick snippet of a demonstration, and as you will see, we include subtitles. At the moment you can see it's in English, however there will be the subtitle language for the select versions. There are some small and some larger subtitles depending on what we're instructing or advising on. And then we have the blocks at the bottom, which are the chunks in which the video is split into. And each video will often have some information added as extra on the right hand side. We're using the document and the plus, which can be seen to add more information about specific things that we feel are necessary in the awareness raising in that part of the video. We also have some simulations, and these are slightly different to the simulation, the TREIO eEDES simulator itself. They are embedded in the course content, and they are clickable elements within the lesson. So you can see here we have an ITN request, which we are starting, and you have the graphical interface, and you click on the aspects that you would normally click on during the eEDES platform. In this example, we have added text in because you cannot input text in the simulator, but you can still click on the various elements. We recommend that everyone follow along with the simulator and then use the TREIO eEDES simulator to follow it again. We have practical exercises, which I've already mentioned. These are a set number of tasks. You saw there were 3 bullet points before, but there are actually 10 exercises included in the training. Each one has a specific actions or set of actions. We have a scenario, some tasks, and with some versions we provide some set instructions. So we have an example of an exercise. For example, number 1, we might include this example where we have a scenario, a set number of tasks, and then a set number of instructions to follow, A, B, C, D, E, etc. In the second example of exercise 1, for example, we would have a similar scenario, and you would be expected to follow through with the same tasks using the TREIO eEDES simulator, but without guided instructions. After several of the practicals, we also have some quizzes, and to follow through with the practical exercises, you would need to sign into the TREIO eEDES simulator, which Alex will come to in a few moments' time. The training is designed for all stakeholders. We have considered all end users, and we provide access to both training packages, so the full package and the short eEDES package. We provide access to the quizzes and the final examination in the package itself. And you can have access to the exercises separately, also to be performed in the TREIO eEDES simulator to provide that safe environment for practice. We've also considered trainers in the delivery of the online training. However, it's an online self-paced course, so there is no instructor needed. But if member states were to implement a trainer for the e-learning, then there would be access to the online training package, storyboards, and also solutions to the quizzes and examinations for the trainer's purpose. We have also considered the competent authorities and are aware that more information would be required. So we have provided the developer files, including all images and graphics and textual content and videos, as well as a developer manual, which maps out the content not only in the course, but also in the developer platform and obviously the developer files themselves. Now Alex will take back the reins and she will focus on the eEDES simulator and the EIO business workflow.
Thank you, Georgina. So as I said in the first part of today's webinar, the eEDES simulator takes an original instance of the eEDES system. So we actually use the system provided by the Commission to build on top of it and to generate a number of exercises that could support the training process. So how does this happen? In a real-time, real-life situation, there will be professionals on both sides of the communication. So we have, for example, a professional from France using eEDES to communicate with a professional from Portugal, let's say, through the eEDES, through the eCodex communication channel. Sorry. And this type of communication will be replicated in a face-to-face training environment. So each professional would either communicate and be supported by another professional in the classroom or supported by the trainer. Now, in a self-paced environment where everyone is performing the training on their own, this is not possible. You don't have your professional body there for you. So we have tried to replicate the activities that such a partner could provide to support you in the training process by introducing the TREIO autoresponder, which is part of the eEDES simulator that we have developed. And this autoresponder provides you with feedback depending on the different scenarios developed for the different exercises and act on behalf of your partner in that communication. This is again a bit of a technical slide, but it will show you how the trainees can actually explore a real environment for training purposes. So for the TREIO project, we have installed an actual eCodex communication point that is linked to the actual eCodex communication environment. However, we have not linked it with the national implementation, but with our own version of the eEDES system that is further developed with these training functionalities that I spoke about. So every message that is used, that is communicated by our professionals goes through the eEDES simulator, moves along through the eCodex communication channel, but instead of going to an actual competent authority, it goes to the TREIO autoresponder, and the eLearning course provides for a lot of details how this communication is going on, depending on the scenario that we are looking at. So in reality, the eEDES simulator provides you with a real-time experience of what it could be your actual experience when using the eEDES system in your day-to-day work. However, this is done in a safe environment. So whatever mistake you do in the process, this won't affect any real-time exchange in this regard. We have developed, as Georgina mentioned, a number of different training scenarios that aim to cover the main points of an EIO exchange. So we have 7 scenarios, 7 exercises that cover different actions from the position of the sender. So different type of activities that a person issuing an EIO would go through. And then there are 3 other scenarios that cover the same function, but from the receiving side. Each of these scenarios is designed with an if and then behavior, meaning that you are instructed in those scenarios to fill in particular information or to perform particular number of steps, and then the autoresponder responds to the steps that you have undertaken with appropriate feedback. As already mentioned by Georgina, we have exercises with instructions where you learn how to use the system, how to fill in the different sections, what type of functions there are in order to fully control the EIO exchange. But there are also exercises without the instructions, so you can implement these steps on your own and learn from them. So how this happens in reality? In case of a scenario where an EIO should be issued, you as a user interact with the TREIO eEDES simulator and assume the role of the issuing state. And then the autoresponder plays the role of the executing state. So when you're sending an EIO, you don't send it to a random state of interest, but you need to send it to the TREIO autoresponder so you can get the appropriate feedback as per the exercise described. Vice versa, if we are in a situation of an incoming EIO, so you would like to receive an EIO and act upon it, you assume the position of the executing state, and the autoresponder sends you an EIO predefined depending on the scenario that you would like to explore. This way, you receive a pre-generated EIO, and depending on the different functions that you need to perform, you exercise those functions on your own. So, how this happened in reality? Each of you who signed up for the webinars will receive a user complimentary access to all these tools, which means that you will receive a username and password to access both the e-learning course and the TREIO eEDES simulator, including the TREIO autoresponder. So this is how the system would look and feel when you try to work with the access details that you will be provided. So you open the page of the eEDES simulator, you enter your username and password, and when you sign in, you receive access to an environment that is an exact replica of the eEDES system provided by the Commission. So you see your username here, and then you can check your profile and the roles you have in the training environment. So for training purposes, you have all possible roles in the system. You can be an author of an EIO, you can be a signer, a reviewer, a sender. In reality, you have only the roles assigned to you by your competent authorities, by your competent authority, but for training purposes, you have all these rights to make sure that you know all the functions of the system. You can change the language. In this case, I'm using English, but you can also change to French or any other language of choice. And then everything will be transformed in the respective language. And then you see all the details and all the forms in that language. I'm going back to English now for the demonstration purposes. The very basic activity is to start a new request. So you just select the judicial cooperation instrument you're interested in to submit a request with. So for example, you choose an EIO investigation order request. Then you type the subject of your request. Let's say, request for financial information or bank account, for example, to make it more precise. And then you initiate the EIO. There is an overview section where you can see not only your competent authority, in this case, you are acting, you're working with the eEDES simulator, but you also see the executing state. for the purposes of the exercises, it would be the TREIO autoresponder. Then you have all the information about the different professionals involved in the case on behalf of your competent authority. You can see all the documents attached once the process of filling in the EIO is completed and the respective status quo. You cannot see it now because this is a brand new draft, but I will go back to an already received EIO and you will see what I mean. Then you can proceed with filling in Annex A, and then you can see all the different sections, and each of the section goes with its particular requirements. Considering this is not an EIO training, I'm not going to complete an EIO, but once you go through such a process, you can explore the different modalities of each section. You can validate the filling in process. So you see whether there are any mandatory parts to be filled in. And unless you fill in all those mandatory parts, you cannot proceed further. You can attach a document and then you can, all the documents that you need in different formats and sizes, and then you can proceed with completing the EIO. This happens when you go to the workflow. Currently, since we are initiating the ascending of an EIO, the only step that we can perform at this stage is to complete it. But once you progress through the different stages, there will be a number of actions that could be implemented by going to the workflow. One important feature is the event and message timeline. And here you can see everything in terms of any type of communication that happened with regard to the EIO that you're working on. And this is not only notifications coming from the eEDES system as such, but also notifications coming from the eCodes communication channel, meaning that you know at every stage of the process what had happened with your EIO. If we go back to the dashboard, you can see all the EIOs that and other forms that you have issued, all the received requests, and all the drafts. This is a dummy user account used for the purposes of this webinar. So we haven't issued any EIOs, for example, for this moment of time, but you can see the draft that we have just created, and it's explicitly say it's still in a draft mode. If you go to the various sections, you can see all the issued or received forms or drafts, and you can go through a number of search options to filter down the content to support you in the process of searching the right one. I will just briefly go through a received EIO just to show you some of the functionalities that I've mentioned. So this is an EIO that have been issued for the training purposes. It has been issued by the TREIO autoresponder, meaning that the user asked for this particular EIO and it simulates the receiving of an EIO. And then the user starts acting on the receiving side via the eEDES simulator. Here you can see what is the status of this EIO. There has been a request for additional information. There has been an Annex B issued already, and so on. And here you can see all the documents in this related to this exchange, all the applicable deadlines, and so on. You can then further review Annex A with all the information that have been listed therein. You can review the Annex B that has been issued. And again, the timeline will show you all these steps with the respective timings. Now, at this stage, you can see what type of steps you can perform by going to the workflow, and you see how many different and what is the variety of actions you can take at this stage. And every time when you go to the next stage and the next stage, these action buttons are different depending on the options that you have at the time. I'm not going to go any further. I just wanted to briefly show you how this whole exercise could look like when you do it on your own. Now, the main point is, how do you receive access to all these materials and information that we have just provided you with? As I already mentioned, all the participants in the webinar will receive complimentary access to the e-learning course in the TREIO eEDES simulator, meaning that you'll be able to use them for as long as you need until we are licensed to provide that service. Meaning at least by the end of this year, but also hopefully continuing within the next, once our license is renewed. Additionally, on the TREIO website, in the toolkit section, you'll be able to find more information and documents about our training materials, the different language versions, the methodology we have used, and how it could be adjusted to the different training settings and the national requirements in that sense, and so on. These materials will be gradually uploaded in the next 10 days, and you'll be notified with an email once the uploading process is completed with all the materials there are. One important note, considering you are already receiving the complimentary access, you don't need to sign up on your own for accessing the e-learning course in the eEDES simulator. However, if a colleague of yours is interested to gain access, but they have not been part of any of our activities, then they could go to this link that you see on the screen and register for gaining access to the tools. It takes a bit of time to provide you with this access, but no longer than 3 days, especially if the request comes over the weekend. Everyone who signed up for this access should check the spam box in the next 3 days. Unfortunately, considering we're sending so much information around, sometimes it goes to the spam box. If you still have not received your access details, then you can get in contact with us via office@treio.eu to provide you with whatever support you may need at the time. One very important note, which applies to all of you who receive complimentary access, but also to everyone who signed up for the access details on their own. At the very beginning, you receive one and the same username and password for using all these tools. And then when you access the TREIO e-learning course, for security purposes, you will be asked to change your original password with a new one and continue using the tool with the new password. However, for the TREIO eEDES simulator and for the TREIO autoresponder, in order to use these tools, you still use the original password that we have provided you with. This is important because sometimes people get confused and they start using the new password for all the tools, which creates some confusion and complications. So these are the very basics from our side, going through the most important developments currently in place in the judicial cooperation domain, and all the tools that TREIO had developed to support you in conducting EIO exchanges, including using the eEDES system. So we are now open for any questions that you may have. You can raise them directly by speaking, or if you're shy enough to have your video or audio in the recording, just put them in the chat and we'll facilitate the conversation further on. Thank you.
Alex, there are no questions in the chat, so.
Okay, then we may go through some of the very basic questions that we have received through the registration forms. They may help the participants to better understand how these tools could support them. Of course, each of you is available to get we are available to you to get in touch in case if you need any additional information or you need any further clarifications with regards to using the tools or anything that could relate to the use of these tools within your competent authorities. So going back to the questions that we have received through the registration forms, one common question was regarding so how to learn more about the execution of EIOs and sending responses through the eEDES system. Well, this particular webinar, as I said, thank you. Nevertheless, we have a message in the chat saying that the participant has no further questions, thanks to the information that we have already provided him with. But nevertheless, we'll just briefly go through the main questions from the registration forms to make sure that everyone receives one and the same information. So if one is interested to learn more on the legal or business sides of the EIO, well, these webinars are not the right format to do so, but they can sign up for the e-learning course, and it covers all the main features from legal, business, and operational point of view, including how to use the eEDES system. So this is the right place to go if you're new to the job or you don't have much experience with EIOs anyway. Another common question is about how a member state or a competent authority could get engaged with the TREIO activities. In reality, we are at the very end. We are at the very end of our project. So we are not in a position to provide any more person-to-person trainings or any other awareness activities beyond the ones that we are now implementing. However, as I said, the access to the learning tools and the eEDES simulator will remain open to everyone who's interested. So you can sign up for getting access at any point of time, and you can forward both the recordings and the presentation given today or information about how to access these tools to your colleagues so they can get back to us at any time along the way. Another common question is how the TREIO project can provide continuous training. I think it was kind of explained in quite bigger details during the presentation. We don't need to go through that one more time. There's also a question from, I would guess, either very experienced user providing supervision on the job or a trainer, because the question relates to how all these materials can be used for further supporting and training people within a competent authority. I think we already mentioned this, but just in case, all these tools are made available for everyone who is interested. And the purpose of our toolkit is exactly this, to provide different type of guidelines depending on the level of professional exchange one is interested in. So the tools that we presented during this presentation are the most common from end user professional. So for a prosecutor or a judge or a court staff dealing with EIOs. And then if the professional interest comes from a trainer, a training authority, or a competent authority, a number of additional instruments are provided so that one could deliver these type of trainings on their own, support the performance of such a training, or adjust all these materials and instruments to a specific national environment. For example, with the e-learning course, we can actually provide with all the materials to the competent authority. And then if the competent authority is using a specific national learning management system, they could embed our content into that system to make it more feasible for their own national professionals to use it, if for some reason they think this is the best approach. There are also questions regarding the different modalities, so covering aspects like what is the learning about, or what is the TREIO eEDES simulator about, but I think we already covered those extensively. So I'm not going into any more details. Georgina, if you have any practical wisdom from your side that could help the participants.
I think the only point I would make is that the TREIO eEDES simulator complements the eLearning. So you are expected as professionals when going through the self-paced content to utilize the simulator to provide a safe environment for practice. So you can get the familiarity of eEDES, but also the EIO workflow, or maybe how to issue an MLA or an ITN. The TREIO eEDES simulator is not meant for personal data, hence we have provided you with exercises. So it's fine to create mock data and scenarios yourself, but you should not use eEDES in replacement. The eEDES simulator in replacement for eEDES itself. That's the only pointers I would make there.
Thank you, Georgina. I see no further comments from the chat, no hands raised. So if there are no further questions, I think we can successfully close this webinar today. As already said, whenever you have any comments or you have any requests for additional information or support with regards to the tools, just get in touch with us either via the website or via direct email to office@treio.eu, and we will accommodate your request as quickly as possible. Again, thank you for all those participating, for taking the time to be here today. And I hope you not only enjoy the rest of your weekend, but also all the tools that we have to provide you with. Thank you and have a nice day.